cameraman, director. He wants to be in the video.
Hi guys, we're still in the UK and we're reviewing yet another car. This one is an MG ZS, appropriate enough. That's a famous British brand, Morris Garages. Hails as far back as 1924 and has gone through various iterations. It became British Leyland, it became Austin Rover, it became the Rover Group, and finally MG Rover. And then in 2005, unfortunately, they went bust, at which point the Chinese took them up. Now the company that owns them now, SAIC Motor Corporation, formerly Shanghai Automotive, is the company that now owns this, in addition to another brand called, I think, Rowe, R-O-E-W-E, something like that. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But they do have, they're a state-owned company, and they do have previous in dealing with international brands, as they've had long-running joint ventures with Volkswagen and General Motors. Now the car we have here in the UK has actually got a joint venture engine in there, co-developed with GM. This is a 3-cylinder, 1-litre engine, putting out 111 horsepower, and good enough for 0 to 100 in about 12 and a bit seconds. Fuel economy about 6.3 litres and 180 kilometers per hour top speed. But whilst I've got this car here, this is the UK car, we do actually have a 1.5 available here, which is the one that actually we get in our market. We do not get this 3-cylinder, we get the older 4-cylinder 1.5 litre engine. But I wanted to have a go in the car because we haven't had a chance as yet. We'll try and bring you a test of the 1.5 soon. What I can tell you about the 1.5 is that that's a 119 brake horsepower engine, about 111 pounds for the torque, 0 to 100 in around 11 seconds, and a top speed again of 170, 180 kilometers per hour. 5.8 litres per 100 is your fuel economy on that car. Now there's 3 trim specs that we get in our market. The base model starts at just 44,000 dirhams, which is $12,000. So pretty good value for money. What do we think of the design? Well, my first thought was it looks very Mazda at the front. That's very much like a CX-3 or something like that at the front. And the side of it also seems to remind me of other cars, including maybe a Renault or 2 in there. But overall, a very handsome looking car. It is of course a compact crossover. And what they're saying is that they're calling this design, this is the new design philosophy for MG going forward. All the models are going to have this, and they call it emotional dynamism. That's what they're calling it, and you can call it what you like, but that's what they're calling it. And they say that it's aimed at younger buyers and young families, and particularly the female segment as well. So with that in mind, and what is core to this car, and it's a very important car for them because they have ambitions to massively boost their sales with this car, and it has actually seen growth globally so far already. The main thing to look at though is the practicality. Is it really that useful a car? And we'll start as usual with the boot. Now you could open the boot with the key fob, but I quite like to use the big old MG logo there, because you just do that and up it goes. And it reveals a pretty massive boot. In fact, it's 448 litres with the rear seats up. You may be wondering, does that 448 litres? Well, there's a little secret, because if I pull this up, there's a massive space under there, and in fact I can, if you just watch that, I can actually lower the floor. So the floor's up here, or it's much lower. That does give you a bit of a high lip to get stuff over, but you do have a lot of boot space. And if you want more, up to 1375 litres, you just pull that and drop the rear seats. They don't fold completely flat, but they do give you a little bit extra room. There's a pocket over here, a pocket over here, there's a light, and that's pretty much all you get. So time now to see what the rear space is like. Well, they promised a ton of room back here, and they provided it actually, because look at me, I'm 6'2", and I'm sitting behind this seat, which is also set for me, and I got plenty, I got knee room to spare, no issues with the shin. Feet, I can wiggle them around all day long in there, plenty of space here. This thing is digging into my shoulder, but that's quite easy to solve. You just put the headrest up and then it's fine. It fits quite well actually. I got room to wear a top hat if I wanted to, and I reckon 3 adults actually could probably sit in here, although they have Isofix child seat anchor points for 2 here and here, so that works quite well. You don't really get much back here. I mean, there's no AC vents, no USB, nothing like that. You get a little tray to put stuff. You don't even get a center armrest. But aside from that, it's quite spacious, it's quite airy, it's quite comfortable, it's easy to see out of. So I think most people will be happy here. But will you be happy in the front? Time to find out. So here we are in the front of the MG ZS. And no starter button, you need a key. Old school, not bad though. And there you go. Now let me just show you this.
for just $29.99.
Oh, and the sound comes on straight away. And this here is a completely new infotainment system that they've now got for the MG, which will be on all MGs, and they call it the Inca-Link. Inca-Link? Sounds a bit like Oompa Loompa to me, Inca-Link. I don't know, it's called the Inca-Link. It's an 8-inch and it's a touch screen system. To go back to the menu, you actually have to press that button. But you have navigation and all the rest of it. You've got Apple CarPlay. So quite easy to use actually, and pretty decent sounding stereo as well. So that's pretty much all we need to say about that. Down here you've got the AC controls, and below that you've got a 12-volt power supply, one USB, just one USB in this car. Could do with a couple more, I think, especially considering that it's a small family car. We get a over here, I think it's a 5 or a 6-speed automatic, irrelevant to us because we get a 4-speed automatic in our market. A couple of cup holders here, but for quite small cups. And then there's that tray that I mentioned earlier, a glove box down there. Now here's the interesting thing, this design here. Now they do say that it's soft there, and they do say that 80% of exposed surfaces in the front of the MG ZS are soft touch. And I'm not sure about that, but it's not too bad. You've got a carbon effect thing going on there. And this thing here, I posted a picture of sort of this vent over here as a guess the car, hashtag guess the car. I often do that. And a lot of people got it confused for other cars, especially Audis. So that those vents definitely taking a hint. In fact, the whole style of this dashboard and the layers that it has that sort of Audi look about it, if not quite feel. Decent enough instrument panel there with a digital bit in the middle, which you can adjust from here. So you just go through these buttons here, on here, and you've got your steering wheel mounted remotes over there. Pretty basic. You got your wing mirror controls there, a little pocket for coins and stuff like that. That's for your fuel release, and that's pretty much all you get. But the steering is rake adjustable, but not reach adjustable. The seat is height adjustable, so that compensates for that. Generally, quite a high seating position, very SUV-like, but reasonably comfortable and good visibility all around. So the rest, the thing to do now, I think, take it for a drive.
Can I drive?
No! You're supposed to be behind the camera! And one more thing I forgot to show you just before we drive off, or put into drive, but just here in the instrument display, the Inca, Oompa Loompa, whatever it was called. If you go into car, you go into driving and maintenance, and you get 3 modes for the steering. So we'll start off with urban and see what that feels like, and then we've got normal and dynamic. So we might go from urban into dynamic. So again, this car really, like I said, is a family car, and it's a car that's about practicality and driving around town. It's not really a sporty car. It's front-wheel drive. It does have a sports mode for the gearbox, but really no paddles. But on the other hand, MGs have always been known for good handling. It's been one of the traits of an MG is good handling. How this car handles, well, let's find out. I mean, literally, to be honest, this is pretty much the first time I'm actually driving it. I've had the car in for a day or two, but I haven't had an opportunity to really take it for a run. So literally, you are with me as I first experienced this car. And we're not going to talk about the performance too much. It's got a nice thrummy note to the 3-cylinder, and eventually it picks up speed, but I won't talk about that too much because, again, we have a different engine in our market. What I will talk about is the ride, which is actually pretty comfortable in this car, but we do get quite a bit of body roll and the body lean, as you can imagine. The steering feels very, very light. No feel, of course, at all. Very light, again, it's because it's in that urban mode, and literally it's just very easy to use, but at the same time, very, very light. So I'm going to go into dynamic mode as we come up to this roundabout. And oh yeah, there is a bit of firming up of the steering, definitely. There's a bit of firming up. I don't know if there's any more feel. Oh yeah, it is significantly heavier now, the steering wheel. Actually more my sort of liking, so actually I quite like it like this. I feel that steering should have a little bit of heft to it, a little bit of a pull to it, just to let you know that the helm is there, and that's what it does. So yeah, definitely I would prefer to have it in dynamic mode, but I think for a lot of people, urban or normal. Actually, let's try normal. Good to have a touchscreen here. And yeah, again, significant difference. It really weightens up in the dynamic mode, and I think I'm going to go back into the dynamic mode. And again, as you notice around the roundabout, it was fairly good. There was a little bit of body lean. It does move a little bit, and I've noticed that before just checking it around. You do get a fair bit of movement in the suspension. But overall though, it's a very easy car to drive. Visibility all around is pretty good. It's got a reversing camera as well. Now I should just point out that this is a British spec car, and we may get very different specs in our market. As I mentioned, there's 3 trim levels there, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of trim spec we get in our market. And we may, there may be more USBs, for example, in our market. I don't know. I'd have to do a review locally to let you know. But this is the car as we're driving it in the 1 litre UK spec. So overall then, not bad at all. The main thing that to note about this car, being that it's a Chinese car and compared to the last MG that I drove, which was also a Chinese version, is the sense of quality. Yeah, okay, it's still, I would say, more sort of a Korean side. It's aspiring to be more sort of Korean level, but it's just so much better than before. There's a real sense of the car has actually been put together properly, and feels a little bit more solid and a bit more tighter than I remember the previous MG to have been. And of course I have driven original MGs, and they feel a little bit closer to that ethos now. But generally, it's not a bad car. For the money, you wouldn't be upset at all. You're getting a nice practical little family crossover that's well built, that's incredibly spacious with loads of room for passengers and their things. So in that sense, it's a pretty good buy. So there you go. There's our review of the MG ZS. Until we bring you a local one in UAE as well. We'll try and do that for you soon. Let us know what you think of the car, the review, me, anything else, the weather, whatever you like. You can talk about in the comments below and elsewhere. And you know what? Follow us on motoringme.com, and of course on all the social media. There's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you like, share and subscribe. And whilst you're doing all that, make sure you follow me as well. I'd love to see you on my Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. Until the next one.